Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Todd. This is Todd. For today's video, I'm making a creamy taco soup. For this, you're going to need 3 tablespoons of oil. I'm using an avocado oil. You're going to need 1 large onion, diced. You can do it however big you want. This is what I'm going with, about 1/2 inch dice. I got 1 poblano and 1 large red bell pepper that I diced also. You're going to need 500 grams or a little over 17 ounces of ground beef. You can just use a pound, but I portion mine out in 500 gram portions. You're going to need, for spices, I got in this right here, I got 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 teaspoons of oregano, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of granulated onion, and 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. It's a lot, I know, but it makes the difference. For vegetables and other vegetables, you're going to need 1 can of petite diced tomatoes, or 411 grams, or a 14.5 ounce can, and that is going to need to be undrained. You're also going to need 425 grams, or a 15 ounce can of black beans, undrained also. I have some of my home canned beans here. Now I don't think mine, I put as many beans as you get in a store-bought can, so I'm probably going to take another jar of this and drain them, but I am going to use the juice of, or the liquids out of one of those. You're also going to need 85 grams or 1/2 cup of frozen corn. This is not frozen. I had some leftover corn from the other night in my fridge, so I just went ahead and used some of that up. You're going to need 710 milliliters or 3 cups of beef stock, and I am using Better Than Bouillon for that. And you're going to need a 227 gram or 8 ounce brick of cream cheese, and that's going to need to be cubed. To get started, I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera angle over to my pot here and add some oil into that and get my ground beef started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just get this oil added in. And I'm not really going for 3 tablespoons, I'm just going until I think there's enough in there. And I'm going to probably end up adding a little more throughout this too, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my ground beef here. Now, I love these here because they have a tear notch right there. I don't know if you can see it, but I never end up using that when it's ground beef like this. I always end up just cutting the top off and then ripping it. I'm going to go ahead and just add this in there. That oil should be preheated enough. And I'm going to go ahead and take this off the low I had it to keep the pan hot, or pot, and I'm going to go ahead and move that to a high heat to fry this ground beef. And I'm going to bring you back when I get the ground beef done. Okay, so my ground beef is about 3/4 of the way done. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my onion here, get that all broke up and cooked down a little bit. Now, you don't need a pot this big. This is just the smallest pot I have that will fit all this soup. If you have a 6-quart pot, that would probably be a lot better than this, which is an 8-quart. So I'm just going to get this onion broke up and cooked for a little bit, and then I will go ahead and bring you back. Okay, so this has been cooking for about 3 minutes. The onion's not quite to where I want it to be. About another 2 minutes, so about 5 minutes in total. and this is still on high heat. You are going to want to stir this occasionally to make sure it's not sticking and burning or anything. And after about 5 minutes, I'm going to add in my poblano and my red bell pepper here, and saute that or whatever for another 5 minutes. They're around 5 minutes, something like that. And also, while the onion is sauteing, the excess moisture in the ground beef is also evaporating, as it's actually now starting to fry and not really steam the onion. So, kind of why I added it in, to like steam it for the first 3, and then the last 2, 1.5 to 2 minutes, it's frying. So, this is what I'm looking for right about here. I'm going to go ahead and add in that poblano and red bell pepper. And give this a stir. I'm going to cook this for, like I said, about 5 minutes. Now, you don't have to use the poblano, but I'm not really putting it there for the heat, as I did take the seeds out. The heat is coming in with this, and it's not really spicy to me. Some people might have a different spice tolerance. If you want to, just leave the cayenne pepper out of this. But for me, the poblano is there for flavor, nothing more. So I'm going to go ahead and just let this fry for a couple more minutes, and I will bring you back. Okay, so I have this to what I'm looking for, and that is kind of like this. The onions are translucent, and everything is done to this point right now in this recipe to where I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my seasonings and mix this in. And I'm going to cook this for a couple minutes like this. About 2 to 3 minutes. And then I'm going to crush in my garlic that I have in my garlic press right here. Now if you don't have a garlic press, you can go ahead and just do it by hand. And to do that, you just mince it. Slice it into thin slices, and then put it into like carrot sticks, and then slice them again, and it's not really hard. Or alternatively, if you have one, you can use a microplane to do it too. Just be careful and not get your fingers. Another way I have seen people do the garlic is they will turn it into a paste, and they will just crush it, dice it, and then they'll just constantly press the garlic with their knife to make a paste. And I'll just crush it against the counter or a cutting board, depending on the type of counter they have. And I think I have said this once before in another video. The reason I'm adding the spices in is because some spices are they bind easier to a oil molecule than they do a liquid molecule like water or something like that. So that's why I like to do this. And that's kind of why I don't drain my ground beef and I fry it in extra oil. And plus I have to saute the vegetables anyways, so I mean, what's the point in draining all of it? So when some flavor compounds like oil better than they do water. So by doing it this way, you're getting every ounce of flavor out of everything. I'm going to go ahead and just crush my garlic in. And grab my paring knife. Just cut that off like that. And I like to double and sometimes even triple crush my garlic to get as much out of it as I can. To do that, I just go in with my knife, get the garlic unstuck, and then I push it down into the very bottom part of it. Kind of like that. And then I'll crush it again. And I just got that much more garlic out of it that otherwise would have been thrown away. When I triple crush, I don't really get much more out of the third crush, so most of the time I don't do it. But for today, I will do it to show that just crushing once doesn't get everything out. And my third crush, I got a little bit out of that. So now that I'm happy I got as much as I can, I'll throw that off into the sink and give this a stir. Now I'm going to cook this for 1 more minute. And at that point, I'm going to add in my broth. And if you don't have better than bouillon, you can go ahead and use store-bought broth if you want to, or if you like homemade broth, you can go ahead and use the homemade. I like using the better than bouillon because I can concentrate it more. So by me concentrating it, my recipe calls for 4 cups, but since I'm using the liquid from the black beans and the liquid from the tomatoes, I cut the liquid down in the broth and I just added an extra teaspoon, which is like this spoonful here. I just added that extra teaspoon of the base to accommodate, to give the extra flavor that otherwise would have been lost by not adding all the beef broth. So and a quick tip, I'm going to go grab another one of my jars of black beans and show you that tip right quick. Okay, so if I tip my jar up like this, you can see how beans stick to the bottom and some stuff. So I like to shake it. That gets everything loosened up, everything mixed up in the jar. It also applies to the canned stuff you buy at the store. So, because when I don't really buy canned black beans or any beans really from the store, I always can them myself. It's cheaper. But when I did, I always noticed that sometimes at the bottom in the don't know what that would be called. Let me grab one to show you. Like in the low points of these ridges, some residue from the beans would stick into that, and I've noticed that if I would shake it, I don't get that. So I started shaking my cans before. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add in that beef broth now. So I just started shaking my cans, and that helped loosen everything up, so I never bothered trying to scrape it out or anything anymore. Now I'm going to add in the corn, the tomatoes, and their juices. And I'm going to rinse this out a little bit. Not much water, a couple tablespoons. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in this jar with the juices, and I do put dried onion in here, so that's going to add a little, it's going to change the flavor profile up a little bit for me. And the last time I did not use these, I actually did have 1 can from the store that was given to me. And to open those, I just go caveman and just use my nails. So And I'm going to go ahead and drain this second one since I do want another jar in there. That wasn't quite enough for my liking. And I'm going to rinse those off with a little cold water. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. I like black beans, so I also like corn, so I might add the rest of what I have left over, which really isn't much. I'm going to raise my heat back up to a high. I did lower that shortly after adding in my poblanos and red bell peppers. I did forget to mention that. I'm going to let this come up to a boil, and you can cover it if you would want to. That will help a little bit, but I'm not going to do that. I don't feel like dirtying the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and just let that come up to a boil, and then I'm going to lower the heat down to about a medium low, and then I'm going to start to incorporate my cream cheese, but I'll bring you back to show you. Okay, so this is boiling now, and it's been boiling for about a minute, I'm going to say. So I'm going to lower my heat down to that medium low that I was telling you I needed to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just add in the cream cheese here. And this should lower the heat a little bit, as it's still kind of cold. Now I'm going to rinse my hand off and dry it. And I'm just going to take this here and get all the extra cream cheese that's stuck on the wrapper. That's good enough. And I'm going to just start stirring. Now this right here is the more tedious part of it, because you pretty much have to stir constantly. I'm probably going to raise my heat up just a little bit to more of a medium, but it's still not quite medium yet. So if you'd want to, you can take the cream cheese and smash it against the side of the pan or pot, whatever. I don't like to do that, as that also will smash the tomatoes and black beans in here. I kind of like those to stay somewhat whole. So I'm just going to, this is going to take about 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to stir it the whole time. It will gradually incorporate itself. But by stirring it, you do help it go along a little faster. But this right here is pretty much it. The only thing left you would have to do is pretty much just let it sit here for about 10 minutes before serving it. That's really all. This is a quick and easy, simple recipe, and it's amazing. I actually made it last weekend just to see if I would like it, and I loved it. It didn't even last 3 days, and I'm the only one that even ate it, so, well, yeah, so, I'm gonna just wrap this video up since there's really nothing else to say other than it's really good. And I would highly recommend you to try it. If you don't like black beans, you don't have to put black beans in here. But I would definitely recommend some kind of bean. If you don't want black beans, you can use navy beans. If you don't want navy beans, you can use, I think you would say cannelli? I'm not sure. I do have some. Be these. Don't really use these. I only got one recipe I use these for, so I don't even bother canning these at home. The can's like 72 cents. So I just buy a couple to keep in my pantry in the kitchen, and that's it. It's not really a point in me canning 20 jars if I only use one like every 6 months. So I mean, you can use those for white kidney beans. You can use regular kidney beans, dark red kidney beans. Any bean you want, you can use. And if you don't, like I said, if you don't want them, you don't have to. If you don't want to add corn, you don't have to add corn. But this is really good. So I'm just going to wrap it up like I've said a million times probably already. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash that like button. If you enjoy the content I'm putting out, go ahead and make sure to smash that subscribe button. And as always, thank you for coming along with me on this journey of mine.